Apologies if my voice is a little weird. I am under the weather, but I felt the need to power through and get out of bed in order to talk to you guys about Mother. It's Darren Aronofsky's new film, and he's the director of The Black Swan and Requiem for a Dream, if you've ever seen those movies. It stars Jennifer Lawrence, Javier Bardem, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Ed Harris. In a nutshell, it's about Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem having this perfect paradise as a home. But weird things start acting as soon as they let a strange man into their house, and it kind of just devolves from there. This movie is causing a lot of controversy. A lot of people hate it. In my screening, at least two people walked out. I did overhear some people saying how it was the worst shit they've ever seen. I feel that because of the marketing with this movie, a lot of that criticism is valid but kind of misguided. Obviously, I'm going to say it right now. If you're planning on watching this movie, do not expect a traditional horror movie because it is not. Despite what the trailer might show you, because I'll be honest with you, I saw the trailer and I thought that this was a horror movie too. I went into it thinking it was a horror movie and I left the theater thinking, oh, okay, that wasn't a horror movie. But I can completely understand how the general audience would see this trailer, expect a horror movie, and then to be disappointed that it wasn't a horror movie. So if you're expecting that, then I still say go watch this movie, but do not expect it to be a traditional horror movie because it is not by any stretch of the imagination. I would consider this more a thriller slash mystery, but due to the ending and all that stuff, I can totally see why people were so grossly offended by this movie. I'll get into that a little bit later. For now, I just kind of want to talk spoiler free about the movie. The acting was pretty stellar. I usually think that Jennifer Lawrence is kind of the weakest in all of the roles that she's in, but I thought that she did really, really well this movie. But still, I think she was overshadowed by Javier Bardem's excellent performance as him. He plays this cold, calculated, but also really egocentric dude really, really well. And Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer do a great job of creeping you out the entire time. And Jennifer Lawrence does a great job of making you feel claustrophobic and really, really anxious and stuff. This movie is a very, very tense movie. A lot of the shots are really close up and there's no music or anything like that. So it's just yourself kind of building the tension. And I think that this really plays to the movie's favor, but I can kind of see how it get a little bit boring because there are a lot of parts where I was like, okay, all right, cut, 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 cut. No, okay. And I can definitely see how it would get boring for other people, but I feel like this movie does a pretty good job of keeping you on the edge of your seat the entire time. Um, yeah, that's basically it for my quick thoughts. I highly recommend this movie. It's got great directing, great acting. It's really, really tense, but the ending can be pretty offensive and pretty shocking, so I can totally see why people were walking out of this theater. But, don't get your hopes up too high and expecting a horror movie. Just go with it with an open mind, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it like I did. All right, I'm going to talk spoilers now, so if you haven't seen the movie, I recommend clicking away. And if you have seen the movie and you don't give a shit about spoilers, then listen on. Okay, so the leading theory behind this movie is that Javier Bardem's character is God, and Jennifer Lawrence's character is Mother Earth, and the house that they live in is the Garden of Eden. It's no surprise that Darren Aronofsky is kind of against religion, I guess, and this movie can definitely seem like that. But Darren Aronofsky, he seems more like pro nature and pro Mother Earth and stuff like that, because the symbolism that you're trying to get from this movie is that humanity, because of religion, we have destroyed Earth and we have ruined Mother Earth and stuff. And while this movie plays it a little bit subtle at first, it kind of hits you over the head in the last act. And I'm going to be primarily talking about the last act in this video, but I will touch briefly on the other parts because the last act is the most, controversial and the most talked about thing. So if you don't know the ending, Jennifer Lawrence's character has a baby, right? After the entire movie of them talking about having a baby and Jennifer Lawrence finally confronting Javier Bardem's character in order to, bang her and have a baby, she finally has it, and her and Javier Bardem kind of sit in a room because Javier Bardem releases this beautiful poem that touches millions across the globe, and they all rush towards their house and creating this giant mob in one of the craziest scenes ever. Jennifer Lawrence is desperately trying to have her baby, but there's this giant war going on. It not so subtly kind of goes through the years of human history. Starting off with police violence, slavery, war. Execution, terrorist groups, all in a house. It's a very, very intense scene that never ends. It feels like it's going on for hours when it's only been 5 minutes. That's how intense and well directed I thought that scene was. But after she has the baby, Javier Bardem wants to hold him because he wants to show all of his fans his baby. And when Javier Bardem gets the baby and he shows it to his fans, they take the baby away and they start carrying it through the crowd. And one of the most unique theater experiences I've ever had was the baby scene was actually a little comedic. It was pretty funny seeing that baby being thrown, carried around. It was peeing everywhere. The audience was laughing. And then you hear a cracking sound. A baby crying, and then a cracking sound, and then the baby crying stops. And I swear to God, the entire audience in the theater went dead silent after that scene. No one was laughing anymore. It was awesome. It was such a beautiful and unique experience. I mean, not the baby dying, but the theatrical experience I got from that. So the baby gets killed, and then they kind of chop up the baby. You don't see it. But they chop up the baby and they start eating it. Jennifer Lawrence, in a fit of rage, starts just killing motherfuckers. She picks up a shard of glass and takes out like 6 dudes. And then, they kind of throw her to the ground and they start beating her senselessly, calling her a whore, calling her a cunt, taking off her clothes. And, they beat her real bad. And you see it. It's horrible. It's horrifyingly graphic. And, Javier Bardem, he makes his way through the crowd. He's like, oh, my God, what have they done to you? My poor, innocent baby, what have they done to us? And Javier Bardem kind of says, you know what? Let's forgive them. They're really sorry they killed our baby and beat you mercilessly. Let's just forgive them. And Jennifer Lawrence finally decides that she's had enough. And with one final, scream or push, she collapses the house and burns everyone alive. And this is the part that's got everyone pissed off, that Jennifer Lawrence, you think she's won. You think she's rid of all that, at the end of it. But then you see Javier Bardem standing among the flame, untouched, and she's burned to a crisp. And Javier Bardem carries her to the bed and rips out her heart, which we'll get to in a second, and puts it on a pedestal, and it restores the house. And a new girl appears, and it's like the movie essentially starts over. So what you see essentially is just a part of a cycle. You saw one instance of the cycle, of a never-ending cycle, and that's it. There's no resolution really, because, it just happens again, and there's no satisfying ending. And I can see why that could piss a lot of people off, because it certainly felt a little bit underwhelming, I'll be completely honest. But, at the end of the day, it really makes you realize that you don't always get a satisfactory ending with your story. And this movie probably wouldn't have worked as well with a satisfactory ending. Okay, let's go way back now, because I just kind of wanted to talk about the ending and the huge controversy behind that. So Javier Bardem in the movie has this crystal that he values a lot. He said it's the only thing that remained in a fire that took away everything from him. So he values it, probably more than he does his wife, Jennifer Lawrence. And the leading theory about that crystal, and what I think it is, I think it's the forbidden fruit. Because when the two old, crazy people come in, who are believed to be Adam and Eve, they're super obsessed about that crystal, more than normal. They talk about it a lot. They always want to look at it. And there's a scene in the movie where they break the crystal. You know, they touch it and it falls down and shatters into pieces. And if you notice, it's the woman who breaks it. And in Genesis, Eve is the first one to take a bite of the forbidden fruit. Javier Bardem is so upset, he banishes them from their house. And, you know, this is a point in Genesis where humanity is banned from the Garden of Eden. We have corrupted it, and, you know, we have to go to the land of darkness, the land of man. And from that point on, there's a certain tipping point in the movie. Lots more people start coming in, you know, the sacred land, the house that Jennifer Lawrence loved so much, Mother Earth, is now being corrupted by humanity. And it's not so subtly trying to say that religion kind of ruined the earth. And to a lesser extent, it's sort of true. You know, apologies in advance if I offend you, but many wars throughout history have been started just because people don't believe in the same religion. And I think that's what Darren Aronofsky is trying to say in this movie, that Mother Earth, who is a representation of Jennifer Lawrence, is being killed and mutilated and beaten and, you know, all this stuff because of us, because of humanity. And Javier Bardem's character, God, is too full of himself and too self-absorbed in this mass cult he has following him to even notice. He's just going to start anew and hope that those two can work in harmony when they never, ever really can. It's a never-ending, vicious cycle. And I think that this movie does a really, really good job of portraying that. You know, there's actually a big importance, and I highly, highly recommend that you stay for the credits for one reason, and one reason only. Darren Aronofsky answered a question on Reddit saying, why is the M in mother lowercase in the title? And why does it have an exclamation point? And all he said was something, I'm paraphrasing here. He said, well, when you watch the movie, pay attention to the credits and look for the only letter that's capitalized. So I did. What was capitalized was the letter H in him. And at first, you know, it's kind of not really a big deal. It's a little weird that that's the only capitalized letter in the entire movie. But then you think about it. That movie essentially, you know, it brings to the attention how poorly we treat the earth and how poorly we treat the mother, you know, the mother character in general, and how much credit we give to God and how much credit we give to our creator, who mostly we'd interpret as a male. And, you know, I think what this movie was trying to say was how little importance we give to mother, thus her name is lowercase, and how much importance we give to him. That's why his name is uppercase, and it's the only uppercase thing in the entire movie. And I think that that's a very, very subtle, attention to detail that not a lot of people, unfortunately, are going to notice. But I highly recommend that, I mean, I kind of just ruined it for you, but I highly recommend that you tell your friends who don't know about this to pay attention to the credits, because it's actually a very thought-provoking and conversation-starting thing. And at the end of the day, that's what Darren Aronofsky wanted. He wanted to promote discussion of this movie. He wanted people to talk about it. You know, he probably knew that people were going to walk out of it fucking hating it. But as long as they talk about it and they discuss it, that's what matters to him. So at the end of the day, Mother is a fantastically heartbreaking movie that I never, ever want to see again, because now that I know all the subtleties and all the metaphors, it's just not going to be the same experience for me. And this movie is so upsetting and so shocking the first time that the second time it's not going to work as well. So I rambled on about this movie long enough. Thanks for watching or listening. And if you like what you see here and you want to see more, click here to subscribe. And I will see you guys next time.